Okay, so our primary form of control, the seatbelt or the harness, whatever you want to call it, it's chest to back connection. So what we're establishing is direct rotational control. I talked about that briefly in the last video, but think about two discs that spin independently from one another. That would be Kevin and I right now because we're not touching each other. The goal is to establish a chest to back connection where my chest occupies the space behind his shoulders so that we're connected. And now I, by not moving, can either stop Kevin from ever moving, or if Kevin moves, he cannot spin and move without me always staying connected to him. Basically, I'm attaching myself to him like a backpack. So what we're looking at doing, if Kevin just turns here, this space on Kevin's back, behind the shoulders, like if Kevin was to roll his shoulders back and try and pinch my fingers, this space here, I am looking to put my chest against that and always keep my chest connected. His job, trying to escape the back, is to try and occupy that space with the ground. Because if he can scrape me off using the floor, then I am no longer able to be on his back unless I'm able to phase matter and go through the ground. So if he can never get me off of his back, then he theoretically can never escape back position. And so how we're going to establish this, it's just a typical seatbelt control where I have one arm that comes underneath, and I have one arm that comes over top, and my arm that comes underneath is going to grab over top of the hand here. What I'm looking at doing is, we're going to go over just a basic control scheme, and then we're going to go over an attack scheme where I'm going to actually have my arm slightly off to the side here. We call it hide the killing hand. This is the hand that is going to be looking for our collar chokes or looking for our rear naked chokes. This is the hand that he needs to defend primarily. This hand can't actually do anything unless we start bailing on from the position and start to move into arm triangles, etc. But that starts to get outside of the back control range. If Kevin grabs his arm and he can get access to the end of the lever, then I'm going to have a hell of a time trying to do anything with this. What we're looking at doing is hiding the killing hand by covering completely at the end of the lever. So my pinky is going to be right on top of my knuckles here flush, and I'm closing my hand so that my fingers aren't exposed. If I grab my hand but just have all my fingers pointing out right here, then Kevin's still got access to the end of the lever, and he's going to be able to overpower me and cause me problems. I'm going here and here. The idea behind this, it's something that only works really at the lowest level, but it's from the control perspective of hiding the hand, but also it can trick lower belts where in order to break this grip, you always go for the top hand. And so if Kevin starts pulling on that top hand, it's not the hand that I'm concerned about, and I'm able to go straight into a choke. It's something that you'll actually have quite a lot of success with, especially as you're learning back control and moving with a cohort of students that you train with. Got my chest against Kevin's back, and I'm looking to never just have my head up like this, creating too much space. This is a mistake that a lot of lower belts make. I am looking to establish this control here and pull my fists into his chest to squeeze him, and I'm bringing my head in next to Kevin, just nestling into him ever so gently. I am looking to have my chin over top of his shoulder and basically be ear to ear. What this is going to do is it's going to make it harder for him to win the head battle, because when it comes to certain escapes, if he's able to push me and get his head to one side, then I start to lose everything. And it's also going to give me the ability to stop his head rotation so that as we start getting into the digging for the choke, he's unable to move his head around freely to try and pummel his chin back in or being able to relieve the pressure. We need to have one arm in over top and one arm under, because what this does is it forms this seat belt in which I'm clasping around the shoulders and encompassing his back. If I was to grab with both arms over top, I don't really have very good control, and he's kind of occupying the inside space between my hips and my armpits, and I don't have anything to stop his direct rotation. So even if, like, say, I had a very loose, like, rear naked choke, if Kevin started turning into me right now, his neck can just spin freely within there. If I had both arms underneath like this, then I'm kind of just wrapping around his body, and once again, he could rotate within here because it's just basically roughly a nicely shaped circle. And so as I'm here and Kevin starts turning into me, he's able to keep rotating in space. However, the shoulders start protruding outside of the basic square of our opponent's body. And so as I wrap around this and I start encompassing this shoulder and his neck, now as Kevin tries to turn, he gets jammed up because there's a pulling force where his shoulder tries to turn and gets pulled against by this arm. And as he tries to bring this shoulder back, it collides with my chest. And I obviously have the pressure here that I'm able to connect my chest to his back. And so this is going to give me that best rotational control. And so this is where this is the most important, the primary, where I demonstrated with the previous video, if I had hooks and no upper body back control, Kevin could just turn into me. But if I have no hooks, but I have just the seatbelt, if Kevin tries to turn into me, he's not going anywhere. Even if we go moving around more where he ends up moving up right onto his knees or turning around, I'm able to still just follow him here. I can move him around as I wish, track him. As long as I keep my chest to his back, he never escapes the position, even if that ends up being many different iterations depending on how we fall and I don't have the hooks in. It can certainly go south really fast if I end up in a compromised kind of situation. I don't know how to control it, but that's some of the stuff that we're going to be trying to go over to help you guys understand this. So seatbelt control, chest to back connection, that is your primary control, and the hooks are secondary. And if you have both of them, then you should never lose back control.